There is precious little in this game that gets us more excited as heroes of the holotable than brand new Lightspeed bundles, especially with the most recent ones that have come out, giving us the opportunity to get Lightspeed bundles for both the Leviathan and, almost more importantly, for Darth Bane. Darth Bane is still probably the most beneficial conquest unit in the game, and he is still able to absolutely destroy pretty much anything in the game. Now, with a lot of you people at home probably looking to scratch that itch and purchase the Lightspeed bundle for Bane, I thought I would take some time to give you a brief overview on how to mod Bane, what the Zeta order is, what the Omicron order is, and if there are any of these things that you can skip on. So without further ado, let's break this down. Alrighty, so if you do head on over to your store at the moment, you should be able to see down here a Darth Bane Lightspeed bundle. Darth Bane, like I said, one of the greatest units in the game. Super, super powerful, particularly in GAC. 3v3, 5v5, he just dominates, okay? So for basically $40, you'll be able to get yourself a Relic 6 Bane. Now, I believe this does not come with the Zetas or the Omicron, so you guys are going to want a little bit of advice on that, how to mod him, what it can take on, and all that sort of business. That's where I am here to help you out just a little bit. Now, obviously, this is my alt account. It is a free-to-play account. I'm not really going to be purchasing this pack, even though that would be amazing. We're going to jump over onto the main account, and I'll just show you how to mod him, what to look for, what the priority is. So, Darth Bane, ladies and gentlemen, in all of his glory. Fantastic unit. Over here on my main account, this guy is a triple Zeta, triple Omicron conquest unit, so he's quite difficult to get. You need a minimum of 4 million GP to even start playing Improving Grounds, and it is a long old grind from there. Is he useful to invest in for PvP? Absolutely. Still even has some viability in TB, though much less so. And same again in TW. You can use him with higher strong units like C to take on certain team comps with the right Datacron approach and that sort of thing. His main place to shine is GAC. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So he has got 3 active abilities. He's got a leadership and he has got a unique over here. When it comes to relic levels of investment, I want to make sure everybody at home understands this. Bane is a duo unit. You go in with one other unit and you dominate pretty much anything on the holotables. Minimum, take him to Relic 7. Maximum, Relic 10. Whatever comes afterwards, right? Like, there is no level in which you are over-invested in Bane. He is a fantastic unit. Do you need to R9, R10 him? No. R7 is absolute bare minimum in my opinion. So, when it comes to modding, what are we looking to do? Because of the way Bane's kit works, in particular when you're looking at his abilities over here, he scales and he does a lot with max health, okay? So in particular, this Essence of Dominance over here, this is going to be dealing physical damage to all enemies based on his max health, okay? He also siphons, if anybody understands what the siphon mechanic is, I can explain that to you. He siphons based on his, he siphons max health based on the number of siphon stacks that he has. So the more the battle goes on, the more that he siphons max health, the more damage that this Essence of Dominance does. With that in mind, we want to mod him all health sets, okay? Health sets, health sets, health sets. That triple health set is going to give you an additional 30% max health, as you can see, if you are using a level 15, 6, well, any sort of double health, level 15 health mod, you are going to get 10% health. We can apply 3 of them for a total of 30% additional max health. Similarly, when it comes to your primaries, where you can choose the primary, and that's going to be on the arrow, the triangle, the cross, and the circle, you are going to want to look for health as the primary stat. There is one optional exception in my opinion, and that's going to be on the triangle. You can certainly choose, instead of having a health primary over here, to go for a crit damage primary. That is still going to deal critical damage when you do your other attacks, particularly with Malevolent Whirlwind and with the other one, I can't remember what it is. This is not necessary. If you want to, if you like to, go ahead and use crit damage here. not entirely necessary, okay? But everywhere else, you definitely want to have those percentile health primaries. When it comes to secondaries, the things that we're really looking for is a combination of speed and offense, okay? Particularly percentile offense, as that scales your offense stat higher, the higher your relic levels go. You get big jumps to your actual flat offense as you progress through gear tiers and as you go up relic levels, which means that it favors percentile health offense increases over flat. All right, so secondaries, you're looking for good speed and good percentile offense. Same here, I've gone for a crit damage triangle. I've got decent enough speed and a good roll of offense. Over here, health on the cross primary, speed, and we've got a little bit of, this is not ideal modding really, a little bit of offense in it. Same again over here, health primary, bit of speed, bit of offense. That's quite nice. Same again, 25 speed over here, a little bit of offense, more flat offense, and finally 28 speed, crit chance and tenacity. I mean, this really should be flat offense or even percentile health to make him even better. Now, to give you guys a frame of reference, don't take this as carte blanche. When we're looking at sort of stat thresholds and what you want to reach for, keep in mind my Bane is R9, so it's going to scale stats differently. I've got about 130k health and 266 speed with a crit damage triangle and 11.1k offense. I like to have my Bane be quite damaging in an attack. He doesn't just need this health stat. Okay, he really doesn't. It is the most valuable, but he doesn't just need that. Try to get him some offense, try to get him some speed. If I were to say ballpark figure for speed, I would say anywhere between sort of 250 and 270 is plenty. You don't really need to go above 270. You really shouldn't probably push above 270. It's not necessary for a character like Bane. And then just try to get that health as high as you possibly can, and try to keep your damage, depending on where you are relic level wise. At relic 7, I'd say probably 9,500 to 10k offense is probably a good sweet spot. Okay, and try and get your health as high as possible. You can have this health go much higher than this. Like I said, I'm sacrificing quite a bit of health here by not having a health percentile secondary on the triangle, whilst also rocking a crit damage triangle. So we would be able to push that a little bit higher. Okay, so that's sort of the modding approach. When it comes to team comps, the teams that I would usually recommend you use with Bane is essentially any team that is a Sith unit that you're not necessarily going to use. Now, personally, I use mine with Sith Trooper, and the only reason I use mine with Sith Trooper is rather clear. It's because my Sith Trooper is Relic 9. I did this for Fleet to get the TIE Dorito, the TIE Dagger to perform a little bit better. In 3v3 in particular, I don't use the Sith Trooper, not with Slacker, not with anybody, so I quite happily use him as basically the guinea pig. Now, you can, of course, throw Bane under Sith Eternal Emperor, and that is very good. The problem with using that is you do consolidate two very, very powerful individual teams, and it gives you less options for offense. This can be useful against certain comps, such as a GL Ahsoka Tano with Ezra Bridger Exile. If you are struggling to beat that comp, C with Bane does pretty well against that. Same thing against like Lord Vader comps with the Dark Side Clone Troopers. C Bane, once again, is a good comp there. But generally speaking, you just want to throw him with a high relic Sith. The reason for that is the rule of two unique that he's got over here. With his Omicron, essentially, when your ally gets sacrificed, he is going to absorb their mastery based on their relic level, okay? So as you can see over here, at the start of battle, if there is only one other non-summoned ally unit, and they are Sith, Bane is going to gain 75% mastery, max health and max protection. Mastery, of course, scales higher with relic levels. So the higher your base relic level, if you're relic 7, 8, 9, 10, the more mastery benefits that you're going to be gaining, okay? Whenever an enemy is defeated, Bane gains 10% max health, max protection, and offense stacking, and at the start of battle, he's going to get a bonus turn, alright? So under his leadership over here, whenever a Sith ally is defeated, Bane's cooldowns are reset, he recovers 50% health and gains 50% turn meter. Not only that, but you can also see the first time each other non-Galactic Legend Sith ally above 30% health would be reduced 30% or less, they are granted a bonus turn and defeated at the start of that bonus turn. Then Bane gains 5% max health, protection, and offense and 5 speed, and an additional 5% max health, max protection, offense, and 5 speed for each relic amplifier level that the defeated Sith ally had. So the higher your ally's relic level, when they do perish, and they almost always will, the more stats that he's going to be getting. And because he's such a solo monster when he's alone, he's going to be okay to tank pretty much anything, even Galactic Legends. So you really want to give him the best amount of stats possible, okay? So find that unit that's going to be useless to you in most other game modes. Some people have been using Sith Assassin in the past. Some people have used Dooku, because you need Dooku at Relic 8 for Galactic Legend Journey Guide events and stuff like that. Try not to use your big units like Malak or Malgus. You don't want to really be tearing away from other teams. C is a good choice, and like I said, I use Sith Trooper. You can use someone like Set. You can use someone like... who else could you use over here? You could use Scion if you actually had more Relic level investment, or Sith Assassin, that sort of thing, okay? Cool, let's get back to Bane then. So as I said earlier, he is a triple Omicron and a triple Zeta unit. When you're looking at what is the order for Zetas and for Omicrons, it is actually quite easy for Bane. The most important ability, both for Zetas and Omicrons, is his Rule of 2 unique. This is the one that's going to give you all of the juicy benefits, all of the immunities, the max health gains, the max protection gains, the offense gains, the ability to ignore taunts, all that sort of good thing. It's all tied into the Rule of 2. So if you've just got one Zeta, one Omicron, you really can't go wrong with just putting them both into Rule of 2 and calling it quits until you've got more space, all right? Apart from that, he does have two other Zetas. One of them is pretty much useless, and I would say it's skippable. So he's got a leadership Zeta over here. Light side enemies have -10 speed, which is doubled for Jedi. In no situation, realistically speaking, is your victory or loss going to be determined by whether or not the enemy had 10 or 20 less speed. You can safely never apply this. If you want to apply it, go ahead, but it's really not important. You can skip the leadership Zeta. His final Zeta is on his basic, and it is worth getting, but it's not the priority one. Definitely go for Rule of 2 first. This one over here, if the target enemy is above 50% health, it will guarantee crit. If it's able to, which means if they've got crit hit avoidance or anything like that, it won't land. Crit hit immunity. If they are below 50% health, it deals 200% more damage, and enemies defeated by this attack can't be revived. That does actually have some niche use. Generally speaking though, it's not a massive deal. You can probably skip this, but it's still worth getting overall. When it comes to Omicrons, I've already stated, the most important one is the Rule of 2 Omicron. Okay, you absolutely want to have this. This is non-negotiable. This is what drives the power behind Bane. Apart from that, he does have an Omicron on Essence of Dominance, and he does have an Omicron on Malevolent Whirlwind, okay? First of all, Essence of Dominance. This is actually a very good Omicron to have. Is it necessary to make him work? No, but it is definitely worthwhile. When you use this ability, it is going to increase enemies' cooldowns by 2 instead of 1. It's also going to remove 50% turn meter from all enemies, and your allies are going to gain 50% turn meter. It then reduces all enemies' defense and tenacity by 20% with no cap, and it cannot be resisted until the end of battle. Okay, so this is useful to have. Just the fact that it can increase cooldowns by 2 on the entire enemy team and start stripping away turn meter, giving yourself turn meter, lowering the enemy's defense and tenacity, it just makes this ability very, very powerful. Okay, definitely worth getting. The last Omicron is on Malevolent Whirlwind, and honestly, you can definitely skip this one. It is not necessary at all. You can do it if you want, but generally speaking, it doesn't have that much oomph. Okay, so let's read it. An additional 3% ultimate charge is gained against deceived or linked enemies. Basically, this is to pair with Sith Eternal Emperor. It makes him hit his ult a little bit faster. However, I will say, in most situations, you're not going to be using your Bane with C, and when you are using Bane with C, you don't really need that extra 3% ult charge when you use Malevolent Whirlwind. The only other part of this is quite nice, is that Bane will gain an additional 5 Siphon when he uses Malevolent Whirlwind. So to go over very briefly, like I said before, when we look at Siphon, essentially it's a 2-stage process. First of all, you have a status effect almost called Siphon, which is a number that slowly increases when you do certain things, like when he basics, he gains Siphon, and when he does his AoE, he does Siphon. Then, when you use an ability that siphons mastery, in this case, his Essence of Dominance over here, it can siphon max health. You've got Siphon Mastery, this one's got Siphon Max Health. When you go to use this ability, you will gain a percentage of your max health equal to the number of Siphon stacks that you've got on Bane. So if you've got the army on this, you're going to increase your Siphon stacks, which means when you use Essence of Dominance, you will absorb more max health. Note, you do not actually have to absorb the max health of the enemy in order to gain your own, alright? You will notice that this excludes raid bosses and galactic legends. When you use it on them, they won't lose max health, but you will still gain max health, which is going to increase your survivability and your damage. Alright? Against a normal unit, they will lose a percentage of max health equal to his Siphon. So if you've got 10 stacks of Siphon, they're going to lose 10% max health, you're going to gain 10% max health, just to make it nice, round, easy figures. And that does stack throughout all of battle. Cool. I think that's going to about cover it. But if you do want a handy little cheat sheet, ladies and gentlemen, I have prepared something for you in advance, and you'll be able to find this on my Discord server. Links to it are in the description down below. So just a very brief high-level overview of what you're looking to do with your Bane. Modding, you want to try and get him 250 to 270 speed, as much max health as possible, and somewhere in the region of 10k offense if you are R7 and above. For your primaries, you're probably looking for health as the primary stat, with an optional of having crit damage primary on the triangle. Secondaries, you're looking for speed, you're looking for offense, and health percentiles. Pretty much in all certain circumstances, you just want triple health sets. The Zeta order is definitely going to be his unique, his basic, his leadership is completely skippable. Omicron order is unique, that rule of 2 unique. You want to then have your Siphon ability, and then finally the first special. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head now, but that one, it's also skippable. Okay, so really 2 mandatory Zetas, 2 mandatory Omicrons. The second of those are less important. All right, if you want this little infographic, like I said, it is on my Discord server, and I think that is going to about wrap us up today for this overview of Bane, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoy your Bane, and I hope you go into Grand Arena and kick some serious ass. If this video is useful to you, please hit that like button. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the very next video. Peace out, and may the Force be with you.